The ships of the United Galactic Confederation moved silently through the darkness of space near the edge of the Sol system. Captain Moctavo stood on the bridge of the lead diplomatic vessel, the Harmony, watching the small blue-green planet on the view screen with curiosity. "Fascinating," he said, adjusting his translator. The reports were correct. They've barely reached their moon, yet they've developed nuclear capabilities and advanced missile systems. His science officer, Lim Dury, nodded while examining data streams. Their military technology is developing at an unusual rate compared to their space travel capabilities. Most species focus on exploration before weapons. Captain Mock stroked his chin thoughtfully. The standard approach, then. We'll maintain distance and send greeting signals first. The United Galactic Confederation had done this dozens of times before. Discover a developing world, observe from a distance, then make peaceful contact when the time was right. Humans seemed ready. They had global communication networks and had theorized about alien life for centuries. "Begin scan protocols," Mock ordered. "Let's get a better understanding of their defensive capabilities before we send our greeting message." On Earth, deep inside the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Lieutenant Jiang Minho stared at his radar screen in disbelief. The objects had appeared suddenly, moving in formation at the edge of their detection range. They were definitely not satellites or space debris. "Sir," he called to his superior, "I'm tracking multiple unknown objects. They're not broadcasting any identification signals." Admiral Kim Hana arrived in the control room minutes later, her face grim as she studied the readings. At 53, she had spent her career preparing for this moment, humanity's first encounter with alien life. But the circumstances were far from ideal. "They're scanning us," one of the technicians reported. "Our systems are detecting powerful energy signatures directed at military installations." Admiral Kim frowned. "How convenient they're focusing on our defense systems first." The world's militaries had been running drills for this scenario for years. If an alien force arrived and immediately scanned military sites, protocol classified this as potentially hostile action. "Get me the president," she ordered, "and prepare the Thunderchild for emergency launch." The Thunderchild was humanity's secret, an experimental battleship built in orbit using technology that most of the world didn't know existed. It combined nuclear power with experimental pulse weapons and a hull made of layered composites that could absorb and redirect energy. Aboard the Harmony, Captain Mock was preparing to send the standard greeting message when his tactical officer interrupted. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy readings from Earth orbit. Something is powering up." Mock looked confused. "Their records show they have no orbital weapons platforms." The tactical display suddenly highlighted a vessel moving out from behind Earth's moon. It was unlike any human craft they had on record, sleek, dark, and bristling with what clearly appeared to be weapon ports. "Impossible," Lim Dury whispered. "Our intelligence indicated they were at least 20 years from this level of space militarization." Captain Mock remained calm. "They must have been developing in secret. Increase scan intensity. We need to understand that vessel's capabilities." This was the fatal mistake. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Admiral Kim watched as the alien vessels intensified their scans. The energy signatures spiked dramatically, overwhelming some of their sensor arrays. "They're hitting us with something," her weapons officer reported. "It could be a prelude to attack." Kim had her orders. The president had been clear. If the unknown vessels showed any sign of aggression, she was authorized to demonstrate Earth's ability to defend itself. "Send one warning," she ordered. "Tell them to cease all scanning activities immediately." The message was transmitted on all frequencies and in mathematical sequences that any advanced civilization should understand. But the aliens, not expecting such a sophisticated response, continued their scans, believing they were simply gathering information. "No response, Admiral," the communications officer reported. "They're still scanning, and the intensity is increasing." Kim took a deep breath. Target the smallest vessel in their formation. Minimum yield on the pulse cannon. Let's show them we're not defenseless. The Thunderchild's main weapon charged with a low hum. The experimental pulse cannon used focused electromagnetic energy that could disable electronic systems without necessarily destroying the target. It was meant as a warning shot. Aboard the Harmony, alarms suddenly blared. Energy spike from the Earth vessel. The tactical officer shouted, "There!" Before he could finish, a brilliant beam of blue-white energy lanced out from the Thunderchild, striking one of the smaller escort vessels. The ship's systems immediately failed, its lights flickering out as it began to drift. Captain Mach stared in horror. No pre-FTL civilization should have weapons capable of disabling a Confederation vessel with a single shot. "This is impossible," he said. "Raise shields and prepare tow." The Thunderchild fired again, this time at a different escort ship. The beam punched through its shielding as if it weren't there, causing a cascade of system failures. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Lim Dury asked, panic evident in her voice. The answer was simple but terrifying. The Confederation had never encountered a weapon system quite like humanity's. Their shields were designed to stop known weapons technologies, lasers, plasma, kinetic projectiles. The Thunderchild's pulse weapon operated on principles the aliens hadn't encountered before. Captain Mach made a quick decision. "All vessels, emergency retreat. Jump to safety coordinates." Admiral Kim watched as the alien ships began moving away rapidly. Several appeared damaged, with obvious power fluctuations. "Should we pursue?" her first officer asked. Kim shook her head. "No, they've received our message. Let them go and report that Earth is not an easy target." The alien vessels accelerated suddenly, then vanished in flashes of light, leaving the Thunderchild alone in orbit. Back on the Harmony, now safely away from Earth, Captain Mach called an emergency meeting with his officers. "What just happened?" he demanded. "How could a pre-FTL species disable our ships so easily?" Lim Dury reviewed the data they had managed to collect. "Their weapon appears to generate a concentrated pulse that overloads our systems. Our shields aren't designed to stop it because we've never encountered anything like it." "The implications are disturbing," Mach said quietly. "If humans can develop such weapons before even mastering interplanetary travel, what will they create once they reach the stars?" The science officer looked grim. "And they clearly interpreted our scans as hostile action. They were defending themselves against what they thought was an attack." Captain Mach nodded slowly. "We must report this to the Confederation immediately. The humans are not what we expected. One glimpse of their battleship was enough to make me reconsider everything we thought we knew about them." As reports spread throughout the Confederation in the following days, stories of the Earth battleship Thunderchild grew with each telling. Species across 3 sectors began to worry about what would happen when humans eventually developed FTL technology and ventured into the galaxy. Admiral Kim never knew that her defensive action had created a reputation that would precede humanity's official entrance onto the galactic stage. The Thunderchild became a legend among alien civilizations, a terrifying warning of what awaited any who might threaten Earth. And across the stars, advanced civilizations shuddered at the thought of more ships like the Thunderchild appearing in their territories. The Grand Hall of the Confederation Security Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 17 species filled the tiered seating, their voices a mix of different languages, all translated through small devices at each station. At the center of the chamber, Captain Mach stood before the assembly, his normally confident posture now stiff with unease. "Play the recording again," ordered Chairperson Ril Navi, a tall, slender being whose silvery skin reflected the chamber's blue lighting. The holographic display activated, showing the encounter with the Earth vessel from multiple angles. The counselors watched in silence as the human battleship Thunderchild fired its weapons, disabling 2 Confederation ships with frightening precision. "This cannot be real," muttered Representative Ba Jono of the Stellar Republic, his scaled hands gripping the edge of his desk. A pre-FTL species should not have this technology. Captain Mulk nodded grimly. I witnessed it personally. Their weapon bypassed our shields as if they weren't there. And our intelligence suggests this was merely a demonstration of their capabilities, not their full military power. The recording shifted to show Admiral Kim Hana on the bridge of the Thunderchild. Her calm, focused expression as she gave orders struck many in the room as particularly chilling. Who is this human? Asked Representative Sora Mekyu from the Epsilon Alliance. Military Intelligence Director Jo Hyun-soo stepped forward. Admiral Kim Hana, age 53 Earth years, former tactical specialist who rose through Earth's naval ranks. She appears to have been instrumental in developing the Thunderchild project. A murmur ran through the assembly. Director Jo continued, We've been monitoring their communications. The humans believe we were attempting to attack them. From their perspective, they were defending their planet. Chairperson Rill raised a hand for silence. The question before us is clear. What does this mean for galactic security? A species with this level of military innovation will eventually develop FTL travel. When they do, what will they bring to our stars? In the back of the chamber, General Park Do-yeon of the Confederation Defense Force listened carefully. Unlike the politicians, he saw the situation with military clarity. The humans represented something new, an unpredictable variable in the careful balance of power. 3 days later, the recording of the Thunderchild encounter leaked across the galactic information networks. No one knew who released it, though rumors pointed to someone within the Security Council itself. In a busy spaceport bar on Proxima Station, dozens of travelers from various species crowded around screens watching the footage on repeat. The bartender, a four-armed being named Kang Minji, wiped glasses as she listened to the conversations around her. Look at how the human vessel moves, said a merchant captain to his companion. It's like they designed it specifically to counter our technology. I heard they have more ships like that one, another patron added. They've been building them in secret for decades. Minji shook her head. The story grew more fantastic with each telling. By now, some claimed the humans had a fleet of planet killers ready to unleash on the galaxy once they mastered faster-than-light travel. My cousin trades near their system, a freight pilot announced loudly. Says the Confederation is placing monitoring satellites around their entire solar system. They're scared. At Confederation military headquarters, General Park studied detailed analysis of the Thunderchild's weapon systems. The technical team had worked day and night to understand how the human vessel had penetrated their defenses so easily. It's actually quite elegant, explained Chief Engineer Song Yoon-ji, pointing to the simulation. Their pulse weapon creates a cascading disruption that our shields aren't designed to stop. It's not that their technology is more advanced. It's just fundamentally different from what we use. General Park frowned. Could we adapt our shields? Eventually, Song replied. But that's what makes humans dangerous. They think differently. They solve problems in ways we wouldn't consider. And all this without experiencing interstellar conflict, mused General Park. They developed these capabilities fighting among themselves. The implications were disturbing. Most Confederation species had developed military technology in response to external threats. Humans had created advanced weapons purely from internal conflicts. What would they develop if they felt genuinely threatened by the galaxy at large? In a secure meeting chamber, a group of high-ranking military officials from 7 different species gathered in secret. This wasn't an official Confederation meeting. It was something else entirely. Admiral Choi Jinwoo of the Arcturus Fleet addressed the group. The Security Council debates while the threat grows. We've all seen the analysis. Humans are developing too quickly and too aggressively to ignore. What exactly are you suggesting? Asked Commander Lee Suna skeptically. Preemptive action, Choi replied bluntly. We can't wait until they develop FTL capabilities. By then, it will be too late. The room grew quiet as the implications settled in. You're talking about military intervention against a pre-FTL civilization, Commander Lee said. That violates our most fundamental principles. Admiral Choi leaned forward. Our principles won't matter if humans spread through the galaxy with their warships. You saw what one vessel did to our scout fleet. Imagine hundreds of them appearing across our territories. The debate continued for hours, with the group eventually splitting into factions. Admiral Choi's supporters began formulating plans for a potential intervention, while others argued for diplomatic approaches or increased monitoring instead. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kim had no idea she had become a legendary figure throughout several star systems. She continued her work on the Thunderchild program, believing she was simply preparing Earth's defenses against a potential alien threat. At her office in the naval headquarters, she reviewed the plans for 2 additional vessels of the same class as Thunderchild. The encounter with the aliens had proven the effectiveness of their design, and the world's governments had united in supporting expansion of the program. "Admiral," her aide said, entering the office, "the President would like to speak with you about establishing a formal first contact protocol. There's concern that the aliens might return in greater numbers." Kim nodded. "They will. No military force retreats permanently after a single engagement. They'll be back, either to talk or to fight. We need to be ready for both." Across the stars, stories about Admiral Kim and her fearsome battleship continued to spread. In some versions, she was a bloodthirsty warlord eager to conquer alien worlds. In others, she was a brilliant tactician who had outsmarted the entire Confederation with a single vessel. The truth was simpler and perhaps more frightening. She was just one human doing her job, protecting her planet as she understood it. And if one human could create such fear among the stars, what might humanity as a whole accomplish when they finally ventured into the galaxy? As General Park confided to his closest aide after reviewing all the intelligence, the most troubling aspect isn't their technology. It's that they created it while believing they were alone in the universe. Now that they know they're not, what will they build next? 6 months after the encounter, Earth made a decision that shocked the Confederation. Rather than waiting for another alien visit, humanity would take the initiative. Earth's unified government voted to send a diplomatic mission into space, seeking the very aliens they had clashed with. Ambassador Park Ju sat in her quarters aboard the Thunderchild, reviewing her notes one final time. At 48, she had spent her career negotiating peace treaties in conflict zones across Earth. But nothing had prepared her for becoming humanity's first ambassador to alien civilizations. "Ambassador, we're approaching the coordinates." Admiral Kim's voice came through the intercom. "The Confederation vessels have detected us and are maintaining position." Park took a deep breath. "Thank you, Admiral. I'll be on the bridge shortly." When Earth had detected signals from the edge of the solar system, clearly an invitation to talk, the debate had been fierce. Some argued for ignoring the message, others for sending unmanned probes. In the end, they decided on a bold approach: send their best diplomat, but with their best protection. On the bridge, Admiral Kim stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the main view screen. 3 alien vessels waited at the designated meeting point just beyond Mars orbit. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. Ambassador Park nodded. "Open the channel." The screen flickered, revealing Captain Moktayo. His expression was carefully neutral as he looked at the humans. "Greetings from the United Galactic Confederation," he said through a translator. "We acknowledge your response to our invitation." Park stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Park Ju of Earth. We come seeking understanding and peaceful resolution to our misunderstanding." Mok's eyes shifted to Admiral Kim, recognition clear in his gaze. "We notice you've brought your warship to a diplomatic meeting. Just as you've brought 3 of yours," Admiral Kim replied evenly. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ambassador Park intervened smoothly. "Perhaps we could meet in person. It would be an honor to host representatives of the Confederation aboard our vessel." This suggestion caused visible alarm among the aliens. The thought of boarding the infamous Thunderchild clearly unsettled them. Captain Mok recovered quickly. "We propose a neutral location. We have a diplomatic vessel approaching with appropriate facilities." 3 hours later, Ambassador Park and Admiral Kim stood in a large, circular room aboard the Confederation diplomatic ship Concord. The air had a slightly sweet smell, and the gravity was lighter than Earth's. 5 alien representatives sat across from them, each from a different species. "Let us begin by addressing the incident," Park said calmly. "Our response was defensive. We believe your scans were weapons being aimed at our military installations." Confederation diplomat Ryu Jihan, whose species resembled tall humans with iridescent skin, leaned forward. "Our scans were merely information gathering. Standard procedure for first contact. A procedure that appears rather invasive from our perspective," Admiral Kim noted. "Focusing scanning equipment on military facilities sends a clear message." The conversation continued cautiously, with both sides explaining their interpretations of the events. Slowly, cultural differences emerged that explained much of the misunderstanding. During a break in the formal talks, Ambassador Park found herself speaking with diplomat Ryu in a small observation lounge. "Your people confuse us," Ryu admitted. "Your technology suggests a peaceful, cooperative society, yet your military capabilities exceed anything we would expect from a pre-FTL civilization." Park smiled sadly. "Human history is filled with conflict. We've fought each other for resources, territory, ideology. You name it. War has been a powerful driver of innovation. You developed these weapons to use against each other." Ryu seemed genuinely shocked. "The Thunderchild was designed to protect Earth from potential threats," Park explained. "But yes, the technology behind it came from centuries of human conflict." When formal talks resumed, the Confederation representatives requested a comprehensive overview of human history, as Ambassador Park guided them through the major wars, technological revolutions, and social changes of Earth's past. The aliens' reactions ranged from horror to fascination. "You've had over 15,000 wars in your recorded history," asked one representative incredulously. "Large and small, yes," Park confirmed. "Though the past century has been relatively peaceful," Admiral Kim added. "Each conflict pushed us to develop new technologies, strategies, and materials. Necessity and survival are powerful motivators." "This explains much," Captain Mock said thoughtfully. "Most spacefaring civilizations undergo unification long before they develop the level of military technology you possess. War between members of the same species typically ends once basic needs are met. Humans are complicated," Ambassador Park said with a slight smile. "We continue to compete even when our survival isn't at stake." The diplomatic meetings stretched over several days. Earth's representatives were given a crash course in galactic politics, learning about the dozens of species that formed the Confederation and their complex relationships. In turn, the humans shared information about Earth's cultures, governments, and technological capabilities, though Admiral Kim was careful to keep certain military specifications confidential. On the final day, as they prepared to formalize a non-aggression pact, tension suddenly erupted when a junior Confederation officer entered the room with a datapad. "Captain," he said urgently to Mock, "we've detected energy signatures consistent with weapons charging aboard the Thunderchild." Admiral Kim immediately activated her communicator. "Thunderchild, report status." Her first officer's voice came through clearly. "Admiral, 3 unidentified vessels approached from behind the Martian orbit. We raised shields as a precaution. They've since retreated." The Confederation representatives exchanged concerned glances. Captain Mock turned to Admiral Kim with suspicion. "Did you plan this? A show of force during negotiations?" Ambassador Park intervened before Kim could respond. "This is exactly the kind of misunderstanding we're trying to prevent. My admiral was as surprised as you were." After several tense moments, Captain Mock nodded. "It seems we still have much to learn about trust between our peoples." The non-aggression pact was eventually signed, establishing basic protocols for future interactions. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign system, and the Confederation agreed not to scan military installations without prior notice. In return, Earth promised to notify the Confederation before launching any new spacecraft beyond their solar system. As they prepared to return to the Thunderchild, Ambassador Park and Admiral Kim stood with the Confederation representatives for a formal farewell. "Your ship will be famous across the galaxy," Captain Mock told Admiral Kim, or perhaps infamous would be more accurate. Kim smiled slightly. "Let's hope it becomes known for bringing our peoples together, rather than keeping them apart." Ambassador Park added, "This is just the beginning of a long relationship. We have much to learn from each other." As they walked back to their shuttle, Admiral Kim spoke quietly to Park. "They're still afraid of us." "Yes," Park agreed, "and some of our people will still fear them. Trust takes time." "Do you think they believed us about developing our technology to fight other humans?" Park glanced back at the alien delegation. "They believed us. That's what frightens them most." When the Thunderchild returned to Earth orbit, it carried not just its crew but the first pages of a new chapter in human history. Earth now had a place, however uncertain, in the galactic community. And across the stars, civilizations continued to watch the strange, war-forged species with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. 3 months after the diplomatic mission, the Thunderchild patrolled the outer edges of the solar system. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge, watching as her crew monitored the boundary markers established in the treaty with the Confederation. Earth had been peaceful since first contact, but humanity remained cautious. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures," Lieutenant Han reported, his eyes fixed on his console. 3 vessels approaching from Sector 7. Kim moved to his station. "Confederation ships. Unknown, Mom. They're not broadcasting identification codes." Kim frowned. The treaty required all Confederation vessels to identify themselves before entering the solar system. Raise shields, send a standard greeting, and request identification. Minutes passed with no response from the approaching ships. They maintained their course directly toward Earth. "They're ignoring our hails," Communications Officer Yoon said. "And they've increased speed." Admiral Kim made a quick decision. "Move to intercept. Power weapon systems, but do not target. Let's show them we're serious." The Thunderchild changed course smoothly, positioning itself between Earth and the incoming vessels. As they drew closer, the sensors provided more detail. "Admiral, these appear to be Confederation military vessels, but they've masked their identification signals," Lieutenant Han reported. "That's a direct violation of our treaty." Before Kim could respond, the lead vessel fired a concentrated energy beam at the Thunderchild. The shields absorbed the impact, but the attack was unmistakable. "Return fire," Kim ordered calmly. "Target their weapon systems only. Minimum power." The Thunderchild's pulse cannons fired with precision, striking the lead ship's weapon arrays. The systems went dark immediately, disabled rather than destroyed. The other 2 vessels split formation, attempting to flank the Thunderchild. One launched what appeared to be boarding pods. "They're trying to board us," Security Chief Kang announced. "Boarding teams to defensive positions." Admiral Kim's eyes narrowed. This wasn't a simple attack. It was an attempt to capture the ship or its technology. "Target their engines," she ordered. "I want those ships immobilized, not destroyed. And prepare to repel boarders." The Thunderchild fired again, disabling the engines on one vessel. The third ship continued its attack, launching more boarding pods before the Thunderchild could target it. 3 pods attached to the hull, cutting through the outer layer with specialized tools. Security teams rushed to the breach points as alarms blared throughout the ship. In engineering, Chief Engineer Shin prepared his team. "They're after the pulse weapon technology. Secure all technical data and engage emergency protocols." The first breach occurred near the main weapons control room. Security Chief Kang led her team to intercept the boarders, armed with stun weapons rather than lethal ones. "Remember your training," she told her officers. "We want prisoners, not casualties." When the hull was breached, 6 armed aliens in combat suits pushed through. They fired immediately, But the human security team had positioned themselves with tactical advantage. Using stun weapons and defensive barriers, they quickly incapacitated 4 of the boarders. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as the boarding parties were met with organized resistance. Admiral Kim had trained her crew extensively for this possibility, emphasizing capture over killing. On the bridge, Kim monitored the situation while continuing to engage the remaining vessel. "Admiral, we've captured 12 boarders from various Confederation species," Chief Kang reported. 3 more breach attempts contained. Minimal injuries on both sides. And the attacking vessels. 2 disabled completely. The 3rd is attempting to retreat. Kim considered her options. Letting the 3rd ship escape meant allowing them to report back to whoever had organized this attack. Capturing it would provide more information. "Disable the 3rd vessel's engines," she ordered. "Then prepare boarding teams of our own." The Thunderchild's weapons fired once more, precisely targeting the fleeing ship's propulsion systems. It drifted to a stop, powerless in space. 2 hours later, all 3 attacking vessels had been secured. Admiral Kim personally led the interrogation of the highest-ranking officer they'd captured, a commander from a species known as the Vel, named Tak Sunho. This was not sanctioned by the Confederation Council. Tak insisted, "We represent the Coalition for Galactic Security." "A splinter faction," Kim noted. "Why attack us? We've honored the treaty." Tak's expression hardened. "Your technology represents a threat to galactic stability. 1 ship disabled 2 of our vessels in your first encounter. If you build more like this one." "So this was a preemptive strike," Kim concluded. "You came to steal our technology before we could build more ships." The alien commander didn't deny it. Within days, the incident reached the highest levels of the Confederation. Emergency meetings were called as news of the unauthorized attack spread. Captain Mok and Ambassador Park Jiwoo met aboard a neutral station to discuss the crisis. "I assure you, the Council did not authorize this action," Captain Mok said earnestly. "The Coalition for Galactic Security is a militant faction concerned about the balance of power." Ambassador Park's expression remained diplomatic but cool. "They attacked a peaceful vessel in our own system. Some on Earth are calling for military response." "What is Admiral Kim planning to do with the prisoners?" Mok asked cautiously. "That's what I came to discuss," Park replied. "Admiral Kim has proposed returning them to Confederation custody, along with the disabled vessels." Captain Mok couldn't hide his surprise. "She's releasing them after they attacked her ship. With conditions," Park clarified. "We want a formal investigation into this coalition and guarantees against future attacks." As news of humanity's response spread through the Confederation, many species were confused. The humans had easily defeated the attackers but chosen not to destroy them. They were even returning the captured ships and crew. In a closed session of the Confederation Security Council, the recorded footage from the Thunderchild during the attack was played. The council members watched as human security teams used non-lethal methods to subdue the boarders, even when they themselves were fired upon with deadly weapons. "Their restraint is unexpected," noted Counselor Nam Bayol. "Based on their history, we assumed humans would respond with maximum force. Their ethics of warfare appear as sophisticated as their weapons," Captain Mok observed. "They disabled rather than destroyed, captured rather than killed." The discussion was interrupted when an aide delivered an urgent message. The counselors read it in silence, their expressions growing concerned. "Earth has announced plans to construct 5 more vessels of the Thunderchild class," Counselor Nam announced to the chamber. "They cite this attack as justification for expanding their defense capabilities." The news sent shockwaves through the Confederation. Markets across 3 sectors showed immediate instability as investors reacted to the prospect of multiple human warships. Defense contractors saw their values soar, while shipping companies experienced sharp declines. Admiral Kim stood with Ambassador Park in the observation lounge of Earth's orbital station, watching as construction began on the 2nd Thunderchild-class vessel. The Confederation is in turmoil over our announcement, Park said. Some species are pushing for immediate technology sharing agreements. Kim nodded. Fear is a powerful motivator. But I'm more concerned about this coalition group. Their attack suggests they won't stop with one attempt. The Confederation Council has officially condemned them and promised an investigation, Park replied. But the political damage is done. Trust has been severely undermined. Perhaps that was their goal all along, Kim suggested, to prevent any peaceful relationship between humans and the Confederation. As they watched the construction vessels moving around the new ship's frame, Park asked quietly, "Do you think we're making the right choice? Building more warships could escalate tensions further." Admiral Kim's eyes remained fixed on the emerging vessel. If the coalition was willing to attack us when we had one ship, imagine what they might do if we had none. Sometimes the best path to peace is to be prepared for war. Across the galaxy, species watched and waited, wondering what this strange, conflicted species would do next with their growing fleet of ships that made even the most powerful civilizations shudder. The grand chamber of the United Galactic Confederation Council fell silent as the doors opened. Ambassador Park Ju entered, followed by Admiral Kim Hana in her formal dress uniform. The human delegation walked confidently down the central aisle, feeling the eyes of representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations watching their every move. Chairperson Real Navy stood at the central podium. Representatives of Earth, welcome to the Council Chamber. Today marks a historic occasion in our shared history. 1 year had passed since the coalition attack. Much had changed in that time. The investigation into the rogue faction had revealed corruption reaching into the highest levels of several Confederation governments. The political fallout had been immense, but it had also created an opportunity. The Council has voted. Chairperson Rill continued. Earth is formally invited to join the United Galactic Confederation as a probationary member. Applause filled the chamber, though some delegations remained notably silent. The decision had not been unanimous. Many still feared human military capabilities, while others saw a strategic advantage in bringing Earth into the fold. Ambassador Park stepped forward. On behalf of Earth's United Nations, we accept this invitation with humility and hope. The formalities continued, but Admiral Kim's mind was elsewhere. Through the viewing port, she could see the Thunderchild in orbit around the Confederation capital world, a sight that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The change in perception had begun 3 months earlier, when pirates attacked a small Confederation colony in the Proxima sector. The colony, populated mainly by the peaceful Luma species, had sent desperate distress calls as their orbital defenses failed. The Thunderchild had been the closest vessel on a diplomatic mission to a nearby system. Admiral Kim had made the decision without hesitation, taking her ship to aid the colony, despite it being outside Earth's territory. When the Thunderchild arrived, it found 6 pirate vessels bombarding the colony's main settlement. What followed became legendary across the sector. The human vessel disabled all 6 attackers in less than 12 minutes, without destroying a single ship or causing any colonial casualties. The rescued colonists had spread the story throughout the Confederation. For the first time, the feared human battleship had been seen as a protector rather than a threat. After the ceremony, Admiral Kim and Ambassador Park attended a reception with the various delegation leaders. Captain Mock approached them, now wearing the insignia of a diplomatic liaison. "Congratulations," he said, offering a traditional human handshake that he had learned. "Though I must admit, I never expected to welcome Earth to the Confederation when we first met." Admiral Kim smiled. "Life rarely follows expected paths, Captain." "Indeed," Mock agreed. "The Council is particularly interested in discussing your planetary defense systems. Several outer worlds have requested similar protection." Ambassador Park nodded. "We're prepared to share certain technologies, particularly defensive ones. Admiral Kim's team has prepared specifications for shield harmonics that can be adapted to existing Confederation designs. What Park didn't mention was Earth's strategic decision to maintain key technological advantages in reserve. The pulse weapon systems would remain exclusively human for now, a fact that some council members resented but accepted as necessary given recent events. 2 months after Earth's acceptance into the Confederation, Admiral Kim found herself in an unusual position. The Thunderchild, along with the newly commissioned sister ship Valiant, participated in a joint training exercise with vessels from 5 different Confederation species. Interesting how quickly they've adapted to our presence, noted Kim's first officer as they watched the alien ships maneuver in formation with their own. Fear and respect often travel together, Kim replied. They've realized we're better as allies than potential enemies. The exercise was interrupted by an emergency transmission from Confederation Command. A diplomatic station in a disputed sector was under attack by forces believed to be connected to the Coalition Splinter faction. Admiral Kim immediately contacted the Confederation commander. The Thunderchild and Valiant can reach the station in 6 hours at maximum speed. We offer our assistance. The commander hesitated only briefly before accepting. Acknowledged, Admiral Kim. Your vessels are authorized to engage. What followed became another chapter in the growing legend of Earth's warships and their commanders. The human vessels arrived to find the station surrounded by 11 hostile ships. Rather than attacking immediately, Admiral Kim opened a channel to the station. This is Admiral Kim Hanna of Earth. What is the situation aboard the station? Admiral, came the relief response. We have 300 civilian diplomats and staff aboard, including representatives from 12 species. The attackers have demanded we surrender certain delegates they claim are coalition sympathizers. Kim's strategy formed quickly. Using the Thunderchild as a visible threat, she positioned the Valiant on the far side of the standoff, hidden behind the station's bulk. While she negotiated with the hostile commander, demanding the safety of the civilians, the Valiant moved silently into position. When the attack came, the humans were ready. The Thunderchild absorbed the initial assault while the Valiant emerged from hiding, targeting the attackers' engines and weapons with surgical precision. Within 20 minutes, 9 enemy vessels were disabled, with the remaining 2 surrendering rather than facing the same fate. Not a single civilian life was lost, and even the attacking crews suffered only minor injuries. The Confederation Council was amazed not just by the victory, but by how it had been achieved. You could have destroyed them all, Captain Mock said to Admiral Kim afterward. Your weapons had the capability. What would that have accomplished? Kim asked. Dead enemies can't learn from their mistakes. This philosophy, combining overwhelming military capability with ethical restraint, became known throughout the Confederation as the human paradox. Many species found it difficult to reconcile how a civilization with such capacity for violence could also show such commitment to minimizing harm. 6 months into Earth's probationary membership, Ambassador Park and Admiral Kim had formed a unique partnership that was reshaping interstellar relations. While Park negotiated diplomatic agreements, Kim demonstrated Earth's commitment to Confederation security through carefully measured military actions. Together, they visited worlds across 3 sectors, meeting with local leaders and ordinary citizens alike. On each planet, the Thunderchild remained in orbit, no longer a symbol of fear but of protection. The humans are contradictory, noted one Confederation analyst in a widely distributed report. They build warships of unprecedented capability, yet use them primarily for defense and peacekeeping. They maintain military secrets while freely sharing medical and agricultural advances. They prepare for war while working tirelessly for peace. In a private meeting with Earth's leadership, Ambassador Park reported on the changing perception. Many worlds now view us as essential to Confederation stability. 3 separate systems have requested permanent human military presence in their territories. And the coalition? Asked the President. Diminished, Admiral Kim replied. Their support has collapsed as we've demonstrated our intentions through actions rather than words. The most telling evidence of Earth's impact came when intelligence reports revealed that two aggressive species on the Confederation's borders had suddenly abandoned expansion plans. When questioned by diplomatic channels, their representatives had been surprisingly candid. The risk of encountering human vessels made territorial aggression too costly to consider. As Earth prepared to launch its fifth Thunderchild-class vessel, Admiral Kim stood with Ambassador Park in the orbital construction facility. Below them, their home planet shone blue and green against the blackness of space. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you fired those first shots at the Confederation vessels?" Park asked quietly. Admiral Kim watched as workers moved around the nearly completed hull of the new ship. "No, I was simply defending Earth. I never thought that same action would eventually help defend so many other worlds." "The Confederation was stagnating," Park observed. "They needed something to shake them from complacency. We just happened to be that something." "Perhaps that's why space is so vast," Kim suggested. "So different species can develop in isolation until they're ready to challenge each other's assumptions." As they spoke, a message arrived from Confederation headquarters. Another border dispute threatened to escalate into open conflict. Both the Thunderchild and Ambassador Park's diplomatic team were requested immediately. "It seems our work continues," Park said with a small smile. Admiral Kim nodded. "Peace is never a destination. It's a journey that requires constant vigilance." As the Thunderchild prepared for departure, communications channels across the sector carried the news. The human vessel was coming. And across the stars, potential aggressors reconsidered their plans, knowing that one glimpse of Earth's battleship was enough to make even the boldest warmongers reconsider the wisdom of conflict. The galaxy was learning what humans had known for centuries. Sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones who fight hardest for peace.